The second movie on my list that is considered bad according to the internet is called Delgo, year 2008. Directed by Mark F. Aldor and Jason Maurer. Now, the story of this movie is about the mystical land of Jamorova that lives two different races, the Norn, who look like fairies that can fly, and the Lochni, the terrestrial shell-less turtles looking like, and these two both have a history and are still at odds with one another, with each other having wars throughout, until one day both sides decided to have peace. But there are still those who disagree with the idea of peace, and so the story begins with our main characters, the Lochni teen Delgo and the Norn princess Kayla. Both are from different races, but they fall in love with each other, despite there also being some anger and hostility between their people. And also there is an exiled Norn named Sedessa who wants to seek revenge for her exile and reclaim the throne, to rule the world type of scenario, which is a very basic plot and not too complicated story of a movie. But now let's take a look at 3 reasons why this movie is bad according to the internet.
According to the internet, the movie Delgo has 3 main weaknesses. Number 1, weak animation quality. Number 2, a cliche and weak storyline. And number 3, inconsistent tone and execution. Now back to you.
Now, this movie for me is also a little bit nostalgic. I don't think I was analyzing the movie when I was younger watching it. It's been such a long time since I watched this movie. So I had to rewatch it just to see how bad it was. And looking at it again, it was not all that great, but kind of like a strange experience. And so the number 1 reason why this movie is bad was first, weak animation quality. Now, I don't like to judge a movie just because of the movie's quality, because even though the movie kind of looks like a poor quality video game with bad graphics, I think the most important thing to point out is when usually judging a movie is the plot, story, or characters. Because there can be a movie that has a great story but poor animation. But I will say the style of this movie's animation, I unfortunately did not like it at all. The movie's quality looked very poor, amateurish, CGI. It has outdated, unnatural look to it. The characters also do look stiff. It doesn't look like it flowed really well. The models of the characters do look a little bit awkward too. The design is also very disappointing. The colors didn't pop, and I know this is an old movie, but there are other old movies that had still decent good animation. Some examples would be WALL-E, Incredibles, and Ice Age. So it did kind of look like they didn't have as much resources as they could have needed if they could have had a better animation studio. This movie kind of felt like it was more on a budget, which can be understandable, but it is sometimes hard to watch, especially the character designs. If they could have changed it, making it more smooth or clean, I mean, uniqueness is good, but the visual style has to make the audience eyes more engaging. So I'm going to have to agree on this one, unfortunately. The second reason why this movie is bad is cliche and weak storyline. Now, the story is very simple, which I'm okay with, but the plot and the showcasing of the characters feels a little bit empty. It felt kind of rushed and the pacing was a little bit awkward. Some things dragged on the wrong way, and some rushed a lot with some of the scenes that could have potentially made a major difference. The story to me felt a little bit like very similar to West Side Story or the classic iconic Romeo and Juliet, which is fine usually, but the movie kind of felt flat and somewhat felt a little bit disappointing. The character that kind of shined a little bit was Philo. I mean, he was a little bit annoying, but I guess he has his moments. But then again, I don't see too much payoff from the scenes, and this movie unfortunately felt like a last-minute project to me. There was no sophisticated thought process, in my personal opinion, which not all movies need to have, but this movie had very obvious reveals. There was also a severe lack of character development and not really a lot of emotions. The story of Delgo's parents tragically passing away was an emotional scene, of course, but I think there had to be more time to allow focus and depth for the characters in a more meaningful way, and so I would have to agree on this one. The last reason for this movie on why it's bad is inconsistent tone and execution. This one kind of just sums it up. Like I already said, the tone was making the characters awkward, and so the story became awkward, and the way they go about it feels more and more less interesting. There are scenes that is a little bit cheesy, then there was dramatic, and then lighthearted, then there are some things that get a little bit awkward. Again, there is so much imbalance in the movie that it would be hard to continue watching with all of these inconsistencies. It doesn't make you feel like, oh, what's going to happen next, or wow, I've never have expected this. It's just too much of a mess, and I think they wanted unique weakness, but mixing all of these other different types of elements just makes it more and more less attractive. No clear direction of the story, unless that was it for the story, then it's not well thought out. I feel like they could have expanded more of the plot and the story, more in depth of the characters' emotions, designs, and personalities, needs better pacing and clearer sense of direction. This movie needs a lot of work if it wants to rebuild a better movie version of it. I mean, it did have a unique world building, fantasy creatures, and if they had shown more of the stone's abilities more fully and did give out a more important lesson of forgiveness and unity. So the last part, I do have to agree.